Just take us through the Saturday scrimmage.
Yeah, there was. I feel like I'm on repeat a little bit, but there was a bunch of back and forth. Again, offensively, made some really explosive plays. And then defensively, we created some turnovers and really situationally had a really good scrimmage. So the messaging has continued to be the same. Offensively, we've got to find ways to sustain with all three groups. And then defensively, find a way to keep the ball in front of us at times, and that's going to be the stress, regardless of who's out there. The expectation is to be able to execute. And so seeing a lot of good things from a lot of guys. Got to continue to get better as we go finish this thing out.
You brought in Coach Rhodes and Coach McIntyre in the offseason. How have you seen them maybe impact what you guys are doing these days?
Yeah, they've just got so much experience. Obviously, as head coaches, as defensive coordinators, as position coaches. So they do. They've got great insight. I think they've got incredible perspective. And they've helped in a great way. They've been eager all day, every day, man, just to help and trying to create the best version of our football team as we possibly can. And so that's been it's been awesome having them here.
You have so many new faces, but you also have a lot of freshmen out there, and it's a little bit different for them because they're getting used to college football for the first time. What's really stood out about some of those guys? What's been the biggest point of emphasis for them in the first few weeks of spring practice?
Yeah, I've tried to continue to talk to those guys about not having any type of freshman lull. They were incredibly excited day one for spring ball. They were excited for day one of winter workouts. Now that we're into it a little bit, making sure that there's not this lull and their energy and their attitude matches what it was on day one. Day one excitement should carry us all the way through, and that's been the biggest thing for them as we've gotten into it and been a little bit of a grind for them.
I know you spend a lot of time, obviously, with Camario, but is there some other guys that have really impressed you so far, that freshman group?
Yeah, we've got really a pretty good group. You look at it offensively, Grayson's had a good spring and a guy that's got a chance to be a really good player for us and do some things in the slot. Colin Wilson's had a really good spring. Those two guys, I think, are ahead of where most guys are as true freshmen as they've come into it, which, again, has been really good to see. And then on the defensive side, Tyler's done a good job, continued to grow inside the scheme, understand what the expectation is. Just an incredible athlete who, again, got a chance to be a great player and excited about where he's at and where he's going.
With the portal opening next week, you mentioned wanting to add an offensive line, but are there any other positions you could see targeting?
Yeah, I think offensive line will be priority one. Tight end, I think, got a chance to be in the fold as well. So as we continue to move through that, those pieces will be important for us to be able to go at.
You had to rebuild a lot of the wide receivers room again after last year. So any of the guys who have really stood out to you here this spring, or how do you see that group coming along?
Yeah, I talked about it a little bit last week, but I'm proud of that group. They've worked incredibly hard. They've practiced really hard. They've been serious about being great teammates. Talked about how unselfish of a group it is. And when you look up and whether it's Brennan and Ant, J-Mo, Aiden, Ricky Johnson, again, Glove, Marcus Allen, these guys have practiced in a really good way. So I'm excited about the depth, and I'm excited about how serious they are about being good. And that's been a fun group to be around, fun group to coach.
We talked to a couple of defensive guys last week, and they talked about being intentional about applying pressure and getting in the backfield. Just talk about what you see from that side of the ball, and do you think they're getting that accomplished?
Yeah, we've talked a ton about it. That was something that had to be a huge step for us in the right direction, both sides of the ball. Defensively, we've got to find ways to create negative plays and get sacks. You have to. And then offensively, it's the exact same on the other side of the coin. So that's been a stress for us this spring. I see both sides of the ball fighting to improve that situationally. And I think we've done a nice job defensively at finding ways to create pressure and not always having to blitz to create it. Have some pass rushers that can go get it done, which has been good to see.
I think along those lines too, how is this spring different than last? When you look out, you got to call plays against the front. It looks more like what you expected to look like in the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, we're getting better. Our roster is in a better place today than it was a year ago. And it's not, that part of it's not close. So that has been really good. Again, the thing that has been most promising to me is that we've been able to practice in a way that we needed to be able to develop the roster. So again, you look at it, 150 plays in this past Saturday scrimmage, really a few more than that. Same thing the Saturday before. We were nowhere close to that last spring. And so again, it's because we have the bodies that can go practice. And we're practicing in a better way when we're not live because there's better athletes and we understand what the expectation is. So we've gotten better. We've got to get a lot better here over the next week and a half to be where we want to be as we finish the spring out.
I know Calvin Dinkins has been kind of working back from an injury. I think he's back out there. What have you seen from him and his work to get back to where he is, and how important is he to get back in the mix and be healthy?
Yeah, it's really important, you know, and for Dean, man, just hopeful that he can go have the year that we think he's capable of having. And for him being able to stay on the field, that's first and foremost. So we've been really slow with him. He's worked his butt off to get himself back to a really good place. We won't rush that here over the next, 9 or 10 days, but proud of how he's worked and the teammate that he's been up until this point.
With Luke and Kamario being new guys in the quarterback room, what is Blake's role as leader?
Yeah, I mean, a guy that needs to set the expectation and the tone for the room every single day so that those guys understand we're living and dying on every single snap, every single minute of every single meeting, and that's how we have to prepare. And so Blake's done a really good job of that. Those guys have taken to that. The room is in a great place right now. I could not be more excited about those three guys and where we're at. We got a ton of work to do to get better, all three of them. But we got talented guys in that room, and that's big.
With Blake, I mean, he's had this history of injuries, and last year had the shoulder injury. I think they're different injuries.
Yeah.
Is there a conversation with him about approaching the game differently, or you let him play his style? I mean, what's the balance there?
There's been a lot of conversation. Don't take unnecessary hits. Again, I've said it forever, but one of the things you love about Blake the most is how he plays the game. The kid will go die for you. Well, I want to make sure that he's playing every snap the entire year. And so finding ways to make sure that he is healthy, what we call dive out of danger, while taking care of the football and understanding situational football will be huge for him. He's going to always have his edge, but him being smart with the ball in his hands in the open field will be important.
So are you pleased that with the greater numbers you have, you're able to run more snaps, and still it looks like you've come through the spring so far with very little damage as far as injuries go?
Thank you. We need that to finish. We need to finish that way. But again, I think we're practicing in a better way because again, we've got better bodies that we needed to be able to give us a chance to practice the way we need to practice.
With Devon back, obviously the talent speaks for itself, but just off the field as a leader, as a teammate, what does he kind of add in that role as well?
Yeah, to me, a guy that's lived it, really good for guys like Fluff and Colin who have gotten here mid-year, and create some expectation for them in the room to understand, what it's going to be like to be a running back here and play for Coach Tuck. And I think, those guys have done a really good job. Fluff, Colin, both those guys have taken to Vaughn and who he is as a guy that's returning after having a really good year.
How do you evaluate the cornerback so far this spring? Is that a position you feel like you might want to upgrade in the spring quarter?
Yeah, Kelly's had a really good spring. Excited about this step that he's taken in the right direction. And then I think we've got some quality depth there, whether it's Jet and Diego, Javen, Trey Wright. We've got a lot of guys at that position that have competed in a really good way. Elijah's had a really nice spring and done some good things. We'll take the right one if need be, but I feel really good about where that room is today as long as we continue to develop and grow up until, week one.
What are your early impressions of Coach Loadhold in the offensive line?
Yeah, again, there's such great familiarity with me and him. I knew what he was going to bring to the table, his toughness, his attitude, the way he coaches and what he demands from those guys every single day. It's been great to see. And so we wanted that, we needed that. Phil's done a great job with those guys, continuing to develop the mindset as much as anything.